My name is Ross Donohoe. I've been with Sunseeker International now for approximately 17 years. And in that time I've done production, worked on production, joined test team around about 06, 07, went my way through test team and then moved into the sales role about 8 years ago. So I predominantly look after the performance side of our brands, from the 38 Hawk all the way up to the 74 Sport Yacht. Now, to talk about the Sport Yacht concept and where it kind of originated from, if you look back at the original Predators back in the 90s, the concept of a Predator was moving from an open sports boat and into a semi-enclosed sports boat, which predominantly made the Sunseeker name and brand. If you look at the original Hawks, the Tomahawks, back in the 80s, some real iconic sports boats there. The Predator was originally formed to enclose and encapsulate the cockpit to sort of make it a bit more weatherproof and give you sort of a bit more of an indoor space, but a slightly shorter sort of deck saloon area. And then the idea sort of originated back in about 2008 when we launched the 84 Predator, and that had like a little sort of capsule on the top, which was like a mini flybridge. And on that flybridge there was an option that you could have a helm console with from memory, it was like a little sunbathing area. And then that evolved into the 92 Predator, and again that had like a little capsule on the back end of the boat which had a console and a little sun pad, and then eventually it rolled down into the smaller boats, which was the original 74 Predator, which was a very popular boat for us. But that was slightly different. Now that was an option, so what happened was you still kept the original Predator profile of the boat, and then basically they had like a capsule that went on top. So you lost the sunroof, and they had like this capsule that went on top, and that gave you a helm and a very small driving area. And what they did, and what we found that formed, was kind of not so much for a social element, but another area that you could drive the boat, so you could have the wind through your hair. But it gave you that ability to have a different driving position. It gave you also another place to be in a viewing area, an observation area to manoeuvre the boat sensibly. And again, that was brought down to the 64 Predator, but back then it was just called a Predator with a flybridge. What that did, that led into the 68 Predator, and the 68 Predator that we launched in 2013 was that we had this beautiful looking, sleek looking boat which had the traditional Predator lines, and then we went into the 68 Sport Yacht variant. Now the Sport Yacht variant kind of moved on from the original 64 and the 72 and the 84 and the 92 and went into more of a mini flybridge, which is kind of what we saw on a Manhattan. The original footprint of a 68 Sport Yacht had the same volume flybridge as a 52 Manhattan. So you still retain the social seating element, you still retain the forward seating element on the observation and in terms of the actual helm position. But what it did do, it changed the look of the boat. And we used to have a lot of clients who were looking to buy a Predator boat and liked the sleekness of it, but weren't necessarily sure about having the full fly element. And although it was very popular and we did extremely well with it, there was some concern whether we had kind of gone too far and we had this sort of hybrid boat. Now let's look at what a sport yacht actually is. A sport yacht today is a boat that still retains, in an ideal world, the sleekness of a Predator. So that low profile look, that aggressive look of what a Predator is. It's very cool, very modern looking, almost looks like a fighter jet on the water, a boat that looks like it's doing 50 knots just sat there. And for us, it's very iconic in terms of its look and its usage. And then if we look at what a flybridge is more of, I guess we look at, still retains that sort of aggressive sort of profiles if we look at the Manhattans, but it's a bit more classic and something you'd kind of refer to as a family man sort of boat, where you've got different elements of where you can socialise. You can socialise on the flybridge, the aft cockpit, the platform, inside the boat. The deck saloon's a lot longer, so you've got these different elements. And the Predator's trying to almost like an opposite of version of that, where you've got like a big sunroof, you've got the wind through your hair, your head's through the roof, you've got a big smile on your face. Not to suggest that the flybridge element doesn't have that, but it kind of it's almost like driving a Lamborghini, and you forget about your troubles, and it's a feel-good factor about the boat. and you've got this big aft cockpit, so you can socialise there, platform aft cockpit, slightly smaller deck saloon, but it's all about outdoor living, it's outdoor space. And the Sport Yacht is trying to bridge between the two gaps of a flybridge boat and the Predator, the variant. And the 68 was kind of the bridge between the two. You still retained a garage, smaller crew, great big aft cockpit, aft sun pad, which the Manhattan doesn't have, and then you had this sort of mini sports fly, and the compromise was sort of slightly smaller deck saloon area. But as I said earlier, the issues were with looking at that, if you could decide there was an issue, was the profile of the boat. The Sport Yacht was becoming a little bit too, what was it? It was becoming more of a flybridge, and that was generally the concerns. So to address that on the 74, when we launched that back in 2017, 2018, was that we launched the Predator. The Predator 74 has been a brilliant boat. Fantastic speed, the look of it's aggressive. And what we did on the 74 was that we dropped the radar arch hoop from the 68 on the 74 to try and keep that ultra slick look of it, which I think we were quite successful. We made the wet bar an option, something we didn't do on the 68, to try and keep that profile as low down as possible and trying to retain our lines, which I think was done to some degree of success. But to try and be a real true Predator style looking boat, the 65 is something different. This boat, we're going to call it the Sky Helm, and it's almost going back to our original roots, almost, I guess, back to the future.